Kayla Mae Berg was born on August 29, 1993. She loved gymnastics and was part of the dance team at school. In 2007, her friend Megan introduced 15-year-old Kayla to the party scene in Wausau, Wisconsin. She and friends had started leaving the small, quiet town of Anago, Wisconsin, and venturing out further to other parties in Wausau. They were telling their parents they were staying the night at each other's houses, but they were actually staying the weekends at Kayla's 19-year-old boyfriend Miguel Marrero's party house in Wausau. They would eventually break up, but she continued to party at his house, and they were reportedly trying to mend their relationship. On August the 11th, 2009, Kayla went to her grandparents' home where her father, James, was living at the time because he was ill with cancer. She had called her mother, Hope, and told her she might go see some friends later. Her father, who has since passed away, had stated that the last thing he heard from his daughter was her yelling through the house that she was going out and then she left. She had told him prior to that she was staying the night with her friend Natasha. It should also be noted that Kayla didn't own a cell phone, and getting in touch with her after she left would have been very difficult. She was picked up that evening by her older brother's friend, 24-year-old Kevin Kilchecki, who drove her around her hometown of Anago. They stopped at McDonald's, and Kayla went in to speak to her friend Beth while Kevin stayed in the car. She told Beth that the two were going to ride around and smoke. That was the last time she was seen, and it would be 6 days before her parents would realize she was for sure missing due to miscommunication between her parents and brother. Also, her mother Hope was apprehensive about filing a missing persons report because a day or two before she had went missing, she and another girl's mother filed a missing person report, and while at the police station, found out that Kayla had stayed overnight at an outside party in town and was safe. After finding this information out, Kayla promised her mother that she would try and get her act together. So, her mother didn't want another false alarm by filing a missing persons report again if she wasn't sure Kayla was actually missing. The night she went missing, Kevin claimed that he dropped Kayla off at her ex-boyfriend Miguel's home, which was about 40 minutes from Anago. He stated the house, which was located at 1017 East Wausau Avenue, across the street from the Colonial Manor nursing home, had all the lights turned off and it looked as if no one was home. Kevin also claimed that he never saw Kayla go inside the home. It is very strange that he would claim to drop her off there because a week earlier, her ex-boyfriend Miguel had moved into another home due to that home being condemned and in desperate need of repairs. Also, the house was boarded up, and Kayla had already been to Miguel's new home and knew that he had moved. So, why would she ask to be dropped off at an empty house? He stated he dropped her off somewhere around 10:30 p.m. and went straight home to Deerbrook, where his mother gave him an alibi, stating that she saw him in the hallway around midnight. Police would search Miguel's new home and conduct an interview with him, and he would say he did not see Kayla the night she disappeared and said that he hadn't seen her since she was at a party at his house the weekend prior to her disappearance. Kayla had seen her brother earlier that night, and her friend Beth had talked to her friend Natasha, and they all had no knowledge of her having plans to go to Wausau that night. Authorities initially believed Kayla was a runaway, and they stated her friends appeared evasive, as if they were trying to conceal her whereabouts. Police began to reconsider the runaway theory as weeks passed without any contact. They searched Miguel's previous home and noted that it was still boarded and locked up with no evidence of anyone entering the home. They searched the surrounding woods with dogs and a small lake in the woods with divers. Nothing was found. In October 2009, Kevin was arrested and charged with second-degree reckless child endangerment, a felony related to substance use with Kayla on the night she was last seen. However, the charge was eventually dismissed in July 2011. After the case was dismissed, Kevin would stop cooperating with investigators, citing that he felt harassed by Kayla's family and the police. Investigators received assistance from larger police department of the neighboring town of Madison in December 2009. They had a team of highly trained dogs that could only locate scents from decomposition of humans. They had a lineup of 10 vehicles, including Miguel's and Kevin's. The dogs would only alert on Kevin's vehicle. Kevin's cell phone records also indicated that he had called Kayla prior to picking her up that night, and all activity then ceased until 2 p.m. the next day. So either his phone died coincidentally or he purposely shut it off. While Miguel's records corroborated the story he told police, it was discovered that an old cell phone of his had pinged off a tower in Lincoln County, about 40 miles north of Wausau, on the night of Kayla's disappearance. 2 calls were made, but a search of the area near the cell phone towers uncovered nothing. This prompted police to want to re-interview Miguel, but he denied their request, citing, like Kevin, that he felt harassed by both them and Kayla's family. There were 12 searches done in and around Anago with hopes of finding Kayla. Cadaver and search dogs alerted on 2 separate locations during these searches, with both areas being connected to Kevin. One was a parcel of land owned by his parents, and the second was on the potato farm that Kevin worked at. However, they were unable to uncover enough evidence to link either scent to Kayla. On October 8, 2016, a YouTube video from October 2009 was sent into the Anago Police Department, which featured a male subject who had tied up a girl in his basement. It had been anonymously uploaded to YouTube, and the girl strongly resembled Kayla. It hadn't reached the eyes of detectives until it went viral in 2016. The FBI got involved to track down who had created the video, and it was shared by numerous news outlets. While the renewed coverage of the case led to numerous tips being called in, 3 days later it was proven to be a hoax, with those involved being actors who hadn't even heard about Kayla's disappearance. Kevin refused to take a polygraph test offered by the FBI, and instead later took one from a private firm, which he claims he passed. The nature of the test and the questions that were asked have never been publicly released. He has never been charged in her disappearance, but remains a primary suspect. The case remains an open and active case, and as of today, remains unsolved. Gerald Strege, nicknamed Jerry, went missing on October 2, 2002 from Waupun, Wisconsin. He was last seen at the Dodge Correctional Institution, where he had worked as a prison guard for 25 years. He loved to golf and was scheduled to participate in a golf tournament the weekend of October 5, 2002, and was looking forward to it, but he never showed up. He was reportedly one of Wisconsin's best amateur golfers at the time. He was supposed to return to work on October 8th, but he never showed up and never called in. Jerry's father went to his apartment on October 11th to find out why his son wasn't answering his phone. He found the apartment unlocked with all his son's personal belongings, including his cell phone, wallet, ID, car keys, and golf clubs left behind. The lights were on and the television was tuned in to the golf channel. Not knowing where his son could be, he would report him missing to police. Investigators found no signs of a struggle in the residence. His car and his motorcycle were in the apartment garage, and the only thing missing from the apartment was his gun. Extensive searches of the Waupun area have turned up no clues as to Jerry's whereabouts, and there has been no activity on his bank account since his disappearance. He is described as a quiet, focused man who is divorced and has no children. It is important to note several things regarding Jerry. He was having personal problems at the time of his disappearance because he had been arrested for drunk driving for the 4th time and feared losing his job because of it. Strangely, he disappeared at about the same time inmate Thomas Deering escaped from the prison where Jerry worked. Another guard was disciplined in connection with the incident. However, Deering's escape is not thought to have anything to do with Jerry's disappearance. In 1983, nearly 20 years before Jerry's disappearance, he was held hostage during a prison riot by inmates who tortured him and threatened to set him on fire. His father stated his son was never the same after the prison riot in 1983. Jerry reportedly was traumatized by the incident and was believed to have suffered from PTSD because of it. But it's unclear what, if anything, it had to do with his disappearance nearly 20 years later. Investigators are still not sure what happened to Jerry, and his friends theorize he may have taken his own life. Others have suggested that he went to Harcon Marsh to check his deer stand but became injured and died. There is no evidence to substantiate these or any other theories, and as of today, this case remains unsolved. Rose Marie Bly was born September 16, 1987. She was a 22-year-old wife and mother of 2 daughters that were both under the age of 2. She was last seen in St. Croix Falls, Wisconsin at 7 p.m. on August 21, 2009. She left her home in the 2300 block of River Road to travel 5 miles to Cushing, Wisconsin to meet a cousin at a bar. Her husband stated that sometime that night, Rose contacted him and said she would be home by midnight. However, she never arrived in Cushing to meet her cousin and has never been heard from again. 5 days after her disappearance, her 2001 Pontiac Grand Am was strangely found in the parking lot west of the post office in downtown Grantsburg. The lot is normally used by semi-truck drivers to park their tractor trailers. The car was undamaged, there was no evidence of foul play, and the keys were missing. Grantsburg is about 30 miles from her home in St. Croix and 15 miles from Cushing, where she was supposed to be going. A few weeks after the car was found, the village had Memory Lake drained to make sure her body wasn't there. It is approximately a 5-minute walk from where her car was found to the lake. Rose has family in Grantsburg, and she graduated from Grantsburg High School. Rose didn't have any credit cards or debit cards, and she left home with very little money. Her marriage was troubled, and police were called to the home at least once to intervene in a domestic violence incident. Her husband had previously filed for divorce in June 2009, but withdrew the filing after reconciling. Her husband passed a polygraph test, and he isn't considered a suspect in her disappearance. His divorce petition was granted in 2010, and he now has sole custody of their daughters. Rose had fallen off a horse a week before her disappearance. She told her mother she was having headaches after the accident, and her mother advised her to go see a doctor, but there's no evidence she ever did. Her mother speculated that she may have become disoriented due to her injury and wandered away. Since her disappearance, the Polk County Sheriff's Office has received over 200 tips and have interviewed more than 150 people hoping to find answers. However, she remains missing and the case unsolved. David Wayne Schroeder, nicknamed Dave, was born August 5, 1967 and lived in Onalaska, Wisconsin. He grew up in Bangor, Maine and graduated from Bangor High School in 1985. He was married to Carla and had 3 sons and a foster adult daughter. On September 22, 2012, while at church, Dave was not feeling well, so his wife took him home early around 2:10 p.m., where he planned to try and get some sleep. His oldest son arrived home within about 15 minutes, and strangely, Dave was gone. He had apparently left on foot and without his money, wallet, cell phone, or identification. Dave had many health problems, including high blood pressure, cholesterol, sleep apnea, and poorly controlled insulin-dependent diabetes. He was 45 years old, weighed 300 pounds, and was 6'5". He was on medication and wouldn't be able to survive very long without them, but they too were also left behind in the home. When Carla returned home from church, she asked her son where Dave was. He told her that he had not seen him. Within an hour, Carla reported him missing, but because he was an adult, it would be 5 days before a search by police would be conducted. A dog tracked Dave's scent across the street and then for a mile along nearby railroad tracks, then lost the trail. They had helicopters and tracking and cadaver dogs and had the Department of Natural Resources helping. A nearby swamp with mud like quicksand was also searched. Dave is described as a devoted parent to his 3 sons. His youngest son, Jacob, was severely disabled and wheelchair-bound, requiring around-the-clock care. He was also active in his local church and played the guitar at Sunday services. He disappeared a week after his 16th wedding anniversary, and he and his wife were not having any problems in their marriage. But she did state that prior to his disappearance, he had been acting as if something was bothering him. His family believes he's deceased and had him declared legally dead in 2014. Sadly, his youngest son Jacob died in November 2015 at the age of 13, never knowing what happened to his father. Dave has never been heard from again, and as of today, this case remains unsolved. Ashleigh Love graduated from Pius Catholic High School with honors in 2009. She was living with her parents and 2 brothers in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and working at an Arby's at the local mall. On the night of October 5, 2009, she returned home to North 64th Street from work and spent time with her family as they watched a football game between the Green Bay Packers and the Minnesota Vikings. Later on, 19-year-old Ashleigh took a shower and went to bed for the night. According to Ashleigh's family, there was nothing out of the ordinary. Her mother, Tammy, suddenly woke up around 2 a.m., unsure what had caused her to wake up, and then heard footsteps outside her door as if someone were running down the stairs. She opened her bedroom door to see a man with a bandana on his face with a shotgun. The man ran out of the house and through the backyard. Ashleigh's father, Joe, ran upstairs and sadly found his daughter had just been shot and did not survive. Nobody in the house, including her 2 brothers, heard the gunshot. Her mother also thought she saw a second person running from the scene as well. Milwaukee detectives had quickly discounted burglary as a motive after learning nothing was missing from the house, but they suspected she had been specifically targeted. Tammy had described the gunman to detectives as a Hispanic male, about 20 years old, of average height and build. He had short, spiked black hair, wearing a dark zippered sweater or jacket. Detectives would get reports that Ashleigh had been seen secretly seeing a mystery man on several occasions before her murder. Her lifelong friend, Joey, stated she was surprised Ashleigh didn't confide in her about the secret boyfriend. During a press conference with Ashleigh's family, Milwaukee Police Detective Eric Villarreal would say,
"And it appeared to the people that saw those 2 interact that she didn't want other people to know she was meeting with this person, kind of like a secret friend or an acquaintance of some sort."
The man, according to Villarreal, is believed to work in construction. Ashleigh's parents and investigators pleaded for the man to come forward, but the mystery man has yet to be identified. There were reports that they saw Ashleigh entering a blue pickup truck with an unidentified man in the months before the tragedy, but investigators couldn't confirm the accounts. Investigators reported that evidence was collected from the home, but they have been unable to disclose that information. The suspect or suspects have never been found, and as of today, this case remains unsolved.